Story time about how my father is obsessed with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I'm sending me on Instagram. And trigger warning. My mom and dad had me when they were very, very young. My mom was 14 years old when she got pregnant with me. From what my mom told me, my parents were pretty much together throughout the whole pregnancy. Even though they were both in high school, they wanted to move in together and try to raise me like a regular family. But my maternal grandmother had a very big issue with this. She wanted my mom to continue going to high school and possibly even give me up for adoption. But my mom was not having it, so she decided to move out with my dad. Once I was born, unfortunately, my parents just couldn't take care of me. My dad was too busy playing his football and trying to get a scholarship. And my mom just didn't really know how to take care of a child. I mean, she was a child herself. This is when my grandmother stepped in and decided to take me in, which I thank God for every single day of my life. My grandmother raised me as her own daughter, and she has been the most amazing woman in my entire life. My parents split up, and through most of my childhood, I lived with my mom and my grandmother. I didn't see my dad for about 10 years. By the time I saw him again, I was 15 years old. Part 2 is story time about how my father is obsessed with me. Disclaimer, is not my story time, instead of me on Instagram. And trigger warning. I finally saw my father again when I was 15 years old. From the moment he saw me, he wanted to hug me and kiss me all the time. At first I thought it was normal because he's my father and he hadn't seen me in over 10 years. After a few weeks of him coming to visit me, I started feeling really strange. This was also around the time where I was getting noticed by boys in school. And you know that feeling you get when you know a guy likes you? Well, that's the feeling I started getting from my own father. Every time he touched me, it was like too touchy. And every kiss was just strange. One of the things that really started to bother me was that he liked going to the beach, and he wanted to make it a thing. He would always say, let's go to the beach on the weekend, but I didn't feel comfortable with him. First off, he never invited my mom to come or my grandma, so it was always just me and him. He even took me shopping for bikinis, and this is when my stomach dropped. At the bikini shop, he asked for small bikinis, like the type that show a lot of skin. Told him I wasn't comfortable with that. I wanted a bathing suit. He said no and bought me a thong bikini. He stared at me all day at the beach. Part 3 is up. Story time about how my father is obsessed with me, part 3. After he bought me the thong bikini and forced me to wear it at the beach, I noticed he was staring at me. I wrapped myself in a towel and told him I wanted to leave. After that, I told my mom and my grandma how I felt about my dad. They thought that I was exaggerating, but I knew that I wasn't. My mom asked him to never ever do anything like that again, and he said he wouldn't. After that, he would always do certain things, like stare at me too much, or always want to hug me and kiss me. And for my own comfort and safety, I put a lot of space between him and I. When I was 18, I finally got my first boyfriend. He became enraged when my mom told him. He told my mom that I was acting like a slut. That's when I cut him out completely from my life. A year later, I got on Instagram, and that's when he started following me there. He started leaving strange comments on all my pictures, and eventually he started offering me money to spend more time with him. I told him I wasn't comfortable with him. That's when he told me that all he wanted to do was watch me take a bath, and that he would pay me thousands if I let him. My grandmother and my mom have completely cut him out of our lives. On the day of my wedding, we hired security to keep him away. And of course, he managed to show up, but security kicked him out. I'm thinking I should get a restraining order. Luckily, my mental health hasn't suffered too much from this. He's obviously an unwell person, but I actually feel really bad for him. And I feel like getting a restraining order is just gonna make things worse. What the heck should I do? Bye.
Am I wrong for not giving my sister the wedding gift she wanted because of how she treated my girlfriend? My girlfriend Naomi and I have been together for over a decade. My younger sister Sarah and my girlfriend have never been super close but are friendly when we get together. Or I guess they were. When Sarah was in high school, Naomi helped her out with some personal things. Sarah got married a few days ago. When Sarah announced her engagement to the family, she asked Naomi to be a bridesmaid, which surprised us a little, but Naomi was very excited because she's never gotten to do it before and probably won't have the chance again. I want to be clear, there was no suggestion from either of us that Sarah should ask her. It was about 2 seconds after she told us that she was engaged. She said that she was so grateful to Naomi for the help when she was younger, and Naomi was very touched. A few weeks later, Sarah posted her bridesmaid proposal brunch. Naomi wasn't there. Sarah never said it to either of our faces directly, but clearly she changed her mind. Naomi was hurt, but said she understood because she hadn't expected the ask anyway. That would have been fine, but then a few months later, Sarah asked Naomi to go to the bachelorette party and to also come get ready the day of the wedding with her friends and bridesmaids. Same thing. Naomi says yes and even helped her find a good place to go and a rental. A month and a half before the wedding, I'm talking to my mom on the phone when she mentions that Sarah's at her bachelorette. No mention of Naomi. Now I'm kind of pissed because Naomi was clearly very hurt at 2 invites and then being sort of ghosted. A week before the wedding, Naomi texted Sarah and asked about getting ready and hair and makeup. And Sarah responds acting confused and basically tells her nicely to just come with me. Then I was really pissed. Sarah wanted this really expensive baking mixer thing for a long time and I got it for her wedding gift. Mom had ruined the surprise prize, so she expected it. But after everything with Naomi, I felt like being petty, and I cut her a check instead and returned the mixer. A few days after the wedding, Sarah texted me saying, "I don't know how to ask this, but what happened to the mixer?" And I responded, "I didn't know how to ask, but what happened to treating my girlfriend like a freaking human being?" Now my brother and my new brother-in-law and my mom are all texting me saying, "What the and that I'm ruining her happy time. Naomi, for her part, says I probably shouldn't have done that, but she feels a little vindicated. So, am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for turning around and going home on my way to the airport for a girls' trip?